Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Jerry Hiller, and I'm here as a guest host to honor Ralph Gibson, and with me, Karen Gibson and Mary Jo Martin. And today we're going to be not just talking about Ralph Gibson, but we may want to give you some ideas about how you would like to be remembered, and what would you like people to say about you when you are gone, when you're no longer here. What do you want to say about what you contributed? What would you like to say before you die of what you did and how that affected other people? So we're going to be talking about Ralph and showing you some DVDs of his life. One of the things that you may want to think about are what memories that you have in your life that you would like to share with other people. One of the things that Ralph, at Ralph's funeral, Tom Tynan said that in our presence, Ralph was always exhibiting a quietness and a peacefulness about him that made us instantly comfortable and free to be ourselves. That idea of being free to be ourselves, to be who we are, Ralph made people feel, excuse me, at home with other people. He had a sense of just being there and not necessarily worrying about himself, but considering what he was there for and especially how he could help out. He was a person for others. And one of the things that he didn't have to be is in the center. He didn't have to be in the spotlight. He liked being literally the man behind the camera, right?
Right, he did that here.
Right here in this room. So we want to talk about Ralph today. By the way, Mary Jo, when did you first meet Ralph?
27 years ago when we moved into Caroline.
Really?
April. Yep.
Well, you moved in
Right.
April. We moved in the November before, previous to that. And the four of us became friends right away. We connected, Karen and I,
Brought us
and my
champagne.
husband Bob and Ralph. So we did many things together. And what you said about him was true. You were always comfortable around Ralph. He didn't have an intrusive or demanding personality. He was just made you feel like he wanted to hear what you had to say, and that was that's important.
Oh, so he really cared. He gave people
Yes,
the
he
feeling that
did.
he really cared. Mm-hmm. Okay. How about you? What would you say is your...
Well, he had a presence and a smile and blue eyes that people used to always tell him, waitresses and everybody would stop and tell him what great blue eyes he had. But
Well, what I find, we're talking about Ralph, just a nice guy, but this is a man who was a police officer.
right.
He had to deal with some people that were not very nice people.
Jerry, he always picked the most dangerous thing. He was a paratrooper, he was a SWAT team member, he was on the task force, he was a detective in robbery. We'd go out on dates, and sometimes there was one time a robbery going on, and he was right in the middle of it. You know, I mean, there were all kinds of dangerous things. He'd get out of a car late at night, we'd be on our way home, and there was a man beating up on his wife one time in the middle of the street, his pregnant wife, and Ralph grabbed him and stopped him. He even stopped a fight with Tom Jones. Tom Jones was somebody had kicked his limousine, a security guard, and he jumped out and grabbed him, and Ralph jumped out of the car and grabbed both of them. So it was pretty exciting being married to him. I'll tell you.
What about the time that he wanted to go undercover?
Well, we'll show that in the pictures.
oh,
That was
okay.
before police women. It was
Okay.
before police women, and so they made the guys dress up as women, and I couldn't believe anybody'd hit on them, but they did. They did.
Was those blue eyes?
I guess so. He said one time there was a guy sitting next to him on the L station, not the guy he wanted, and the guy kept talking to him, and Ralph was trying to make him stop, and he couldn't talk because his voice would give him away, so he had to keep hitting the man with his purse, you know, to make him.
Okay, so that he used whatever he had to do to be able to get the job done.
That's right.
Later on, we'll talk about how he also pursued justice. This is a man that was interested in having people get what they're supposed to get in life, including the life insurance, what the life insurance provided for their home health care needs, and that the insurance companies would not want to give
Well,
willingly.
Yeah, he always coached me on what to say in court to help win the cases. for people at my business, which was a nursing business, but he was involved with that from the beginning. He also owned a private detective agency. But I thought, you know, Denise Surratt is the producer of the Simpsons TV show, and she sent you a letter
Yes,
about
yeah,
him.
let me, that's amazing. The Simpson producer. So she said, charming, delightful, quietly taking in with pure enjoyment the energy and delight of Karen with friends around her, filled with wonderful energy and inevitable laughter. Her delight was his kindness and awareness also centered the gravity of the room with the soulful peacefulness that he owned and shared. He is one of a kind with love. One of the things that's interesting is how to have that combination of doing a job that is, you really have other people's lives at stake, but you're dealing with the ones that want to take them or want to harm them.
No, he said they have to keep the lid on the garbage can, you know? And during some of the conventions, one time he was accused of knocking somebody over, but the man came and testified. He said he wasn't knocking me over, he was picking me up.
Wow.
You know?
Now here's something I never asked you. How did he switch from work to home? Because being a police person, a policeman, policewoman, you have these shifts, these changing shifts.
He didn't bring it home. I
Yeah,
mean,
how did he do that?
I don't know.
Because that really is.
I don't know, but he was always pleasant at home. He was always nice. I mean, I would have to dig to ask. I mean, there were some funny stories with he and other policemen, his partner Gil Broderick or Jim O'Mara, and things like that. But he didn't. He wasn't depressed over it. He wasn't. You know, no. He was upset one time. He had to shoot someone in the leg to prevent them from killing somebody else, and that upset him terribly. Other than that, he was very even-keeled.
But that is really saying something, because one of the challenges in dealing with the public, meeting people that we don't ever meet, and he would meet them and deal with them
on a daily basis. Yeah.
and not knowing if when he talked to somebody, if they had a gun or if they were going to be cooperative or not, and at the same time hold himself
Well, he
to.
always said you start out being nice and just stay nice as long as you can, you know.
Did he have to practice a lot with using his gun?
He did, you know, he did practice that, but he was a good shot. I mean, he was good at it, so he didn't have to do it all constantly, but he did do it.
Well, one thing is he certainly was a presence. Now, this is interesting. So here he is as a policeman, but one of his hobbies is teaching dancing.
Oh, right.
With
It wasn't even a hobby, it was a job. He taught at Arthur Murray, yeah.
It was a job that he had, teaching. So here Ralph is dressed up and teaching to be,
All kinds of dances.
flexible on his feet,
Yeah, because that's one of the things we did. Was
Yeah.
the ballroom dancing.
dancing. Mm-hmm. That's right.
He
He
an
was very good
excellent
at that.
dancer.
And Tom Tynan, you mentioned him before, he mentioned him as the way he dressed. He always won the Best Dressed awards, and Tom Tynan said, yeah, he was a dapper Dan.
Well, one thing is that he was a guy who noticed things. I met him, I think, in the early 80s, and he had a way of being there without necessarily saying much, except when it had to be said. He was the one that really encouraged you to take another crack at your business. The first time you went into,
yeah. Well,
you were a
from the beginning.
pioneer
Right.
in home health care. I don't know if people know this, but you were a pioneer in having home health care for people at home. And that was not always accepted by some folks.
You know, he pushed me into
And
doing
at
things.
first it didn't go well, but then he said, get back on the horse.
Well, it was slow. It was a slow
Okay.
thing. We had to teach people about it. It didn't exist then. But so, yeah, he was
So you had to carve out the niche
Right.
before, but he was the one that won. In fact, for
Very
your book,
encouraging.
he was the one that had the best picture that you could use for your book.
Yeah, he became a professional photographer because everybody took pictures of us professionals, and his picture was chosen for the front of our book, Nurses on Our Own, by the publisher. So they paid him for it and made him a professional photographer.
Well, he had a way of encouraging you. Could I ask you this? You are a strong person, okay? And I know for a fact that you just don't tell Karen Gibson what to do.
Right.
Ralph was a strong person also in his own way. So how did he get you to do things that were good and for you. You know, you worked constantly to help patients. By the way, I should tell the audience that a while back in the old days, people had good insurance. Insurance without high deductibles, but insurance through their employer. Some people had 24-hour nursing care. But then what happened is some insurance companies would not give or fought giving the benefits
Well,
that they had paid for.
And people
they got.
didn't know that they had it. People didn't know they had it. But with you being the social worker that you are and investigate things and then giving it to me to further investigate it, we got things for them that were unbelievable.
Well, that's right.
benefits. Yeah.
Some people, you're right. Some people, they retire. I know that we were getting a lot of men who retired and then had their strokes.
Okay, they want us to show the video.
Okay,
So
let's
can
see
we start showing
absolutely.
the video now of Ralph Gibson's life? I want to say that this is Ralph when he was forced to dress as a woman because of the fact that they didn't have police women at that time. And so his whole unit was forced to dress as women.
Now, what year was this, would you say?
It was before he met me. It was like, I'll tell you that, because I never saw that in real life.
So what he did is they wanted to
catch some rapists at an L station, and so he had to go. And you know, people don't know that when they're in disguises like that, they often don't have a gun on them either, so that nobody can find it or fight with them over it. So it can be pretty dangerous when you're looking for dangerous people. And he did get pulled into a car. Some guys around the University of Chicago pulled him into a car, or tried to pull him into a car. Of course, they got arrested. And this was Ralph at a party. Those girls are strangers, actually. They just wanted a picture with him. We got the music in the background telling us about some of his life, where he's a secret agent man when he was dressed as a woman. And Vito Zotto used to play that when he would come into his show, Secret Agent Man.
It's too bad we don't have enough time for you to tell us how you met Ralph, but that's a whole nother story.
We'll have to do another show.
How long were you married?
46 years.
46 years, and that's how long you were married?
Yes.
Wow, I've only been married 36.
I'll
So
keep at it.
Yeah, I got a ways to go.
You might want to read one of those other things while this is on.
Well, one of the things is Maria
Panassa?
Panassa
Yeah.
said, the first time I met Ralph, I was impressed by both his stature and demeanor. I thought, wow, Karen has a real bodyguard for a husband. Now, tell us about this.
Well, this was at a party actually at Trump in Palm Beach. There were some charity parties, and it was interesting because Donald Trump sat down with Ralph and I at a table at the cocktail party. And he said to Ralph, which mansion do you live in? As an airplane went over, he said, there's a lot of airport noise. Ralph said, I know, it's over my house too. He said, which mansion do you live in? Ralph said, the one at Midway Airport. So they had a lot of decor and things like that in Palm Beach at the Red Cross Ball and at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago, which we were at several times. I came in and said to Ralph, I hope you brought a tuxedo because we were just invited to a party at Donald Trump's. And he said, what?
Wow.
But he always had the proper clothes.
Sure,
You know.
but now
he
what
paid
year-
the house dressed up and good.
Now, what year was this? Would you say?
Late 80s.
Wow. So even back then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he had to be somewhat intimidating as a police officer, but he also was gentle. There's a phrase, nothing is as gentle as real strength, and nothing has real strength as gentleness. Now, who are these?
That was Ralph and a friend of his a long, long time ago when he was a kid. They used to go to Fox Lake, I guess, to this boy's grandparents' house or something.
Well, he would have been how old?
I don't know. I wasn't there for that.
Oh,
I don't know. I wasn't around yet.
you said he was a paratrooper.
Yes, he was.
Wow.
That was our friend Fred Massaro in the back, and Fred Massaro unfortunately is gone too, so I hope Ralph's at a party with him on the left. He was a Chicago policeman also. And Mark, who was also a Chicago policeman.
So that was a birthday party of
Right.
which one? Do you remember?
I don't recall which one it was because he had many, I'll tell you.
He liked to.
We always had, well, I always liked to have the parties. You know, people always said he dressed so well, and they said, well, Karen, you bought the stuff in it, but that's not true. He dressed well when I met him. That was one of the first things I noticed.
Well, he had a class. He was a class act, and he could do
There
that.
he is, excuse me,
Oh, yeah.
with nephews and nieces and stuff like that.
How
Yeah,
many?
the kids always liked him.
How
He
many?
taught them fishing and hunting, and
Wow. How many nieces and nephews?
2 nephews,
Uh-huh.
2 nieces.
He had that phrase, eagles don't chase flies.
Yeah, he wanted to go after the big criminals, not the little ones.
Danger is no stranger to a task force ranger. Huh?
That's right. He used to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go wake up the El Rukin gang in the middle of the night to catch them for things. It made me nervous.
Wow.
But I always felt he was smarter than the criminals. He could outwit them. There he is with Chris McCann fishing in Florida. He liked ocean fishing too,
Wow.
hunting,
What did he hunt?
pheasant.
Pheasant.
And he did it in Lake Geneva at the Hunt Club for a while, and that was like hunting at the Ritz-Carlton. And then they'd make the food for him on top of it at the restaurant.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's the way to hunt.
yeah.
There was the Atwell family talked about how they had the pleasure of knowing the two of you for 23 years, and that how Ralph was an inspiration of strength and values, principles.
And Bill and his wife
now,
Michelle
how
have
about
been
here?
great friends. This is up in Wisconsin with the boat fishing. I'm not sure whether that was in Lake Geneva or further up in northern Wisconsin in Tomahawk. He always looked forward to those trips with the other policemen and stuff like that with the fishing.
By the way,
That relaxed.
just seeing that, it makes you want to be in that, around
He
those
took me
trees.
fishing on the ocean once, and I said, "Where do you plug in the phone?" It was like,
By the way, I think you were the first one that had what they call the cell phone.
cell phone, the big older one.
Yeah, it was like this.
Oh, there we are on it. That's one of our many anniversary parties on our 25th wedding anniversary. Carol and Ed Russell did that at their home. We actually had 25 different ceremonies. I know you were at some of them. Mary
Yeah.
Jo was at some of them. But Carol Russell did that one in her home. Her husband dressed as a monk to have us renew our vows.
Oh, wow.
And we at Disney World and on the ship downtown at Navy Pier. And I had my bridesmaids from before and current bridesmaids and friends. My friend Anna Ball, who owns Ball Horticultural Company, she gave them all long stem roses.
Wow.
That was our 20th wedding anniversary.
Wow. What a handsome couple, huh?
I think you were there, Mary Jo. You and Bob were there. I'm glad I had all those parties earlier than waiting till like our 50th or something, which
Right.
didn't happen, you know.
You know, that's a good point.
There are no
to,
guarantees. So.
to celebrate as you go along.
And people are gone, you know, that were at those parties sometimes, you know, and out of sequence, different ages, and sometimes the youngest person at the table. So I'm very happy that we celebrated it early. That was another one of his birthdays.
You know, it's interesting. My father used to say this Latin phrase, tempus fugit, memento mori. Time flies, remember death. And one of the things that Ralph and you did is you lived. We gave a talk on Monday about stop asking permission to really live. And I think sometimes we kind of hang back and kind of wait for someone to say, okay, ready, set,
Right.
go. And there's, oh, there you are
Yes,
outside again.
We were in Alaska on a cruise. With that's actually where we met Bill Atwell, was on that particular cruise near Glacier Bay. Ralph wanted to go to Alaska on a cruise. I didn't particularly want to go where it was cold.
Yeah, how did you?
But I went and I loved it. I felt like I was 19 again. I loved it.
Wow. Well, what's interesting is how he was in the, you guys were in the city, but at the same time, you're close to nature in these trips. I mean, look at
Yeah.
being connected to nature.
We panned for gold, and he fished for salmon there, and they freeze dried it and sent it to us. It was the best salmon I ever tasted. It was good, yeah.
Share the wild salmon in Alaska. Nothing better.
You know, I like it when you said that you had a lot of celebrations. It's interesting how some families are always celebrating. I dated somebody once, and her family was always celebrating something. Maybe one of the kids got a good grade in math. Well, we're going to celebrate.
Have a party.
And so what does that mean? Well, we're going to have supper and celebrate. So that we can have a celebration without having to wait around for something. I wanted to ask you this though. You guys work like man. I mean, you're a workaholic. How did you stop and do all this playing?
I know we had a perpetual date.
That's my husband.
That's your husband, Bob.
Mary
huh?
Jo's
Yeah.
husband.
Wow.
Bringing Ralph to a surprise party for Ralph for his birthday. And of course, Bob knew that he was bringing Ralph to the clubhouse for this party. Ralph didn't know, so.
But it was his
Yeah.
surprise party. Yeah.
Now, if I were their teacher and I had them in school when they were kids, I would think those two were up to something.
We're brats.
Well, they're up to
And you'd
something.
probably be right. Because the two of them together didn't need too much.
So encouragement.
encouragement,
You
uh-huh,
know,
to-
they
Yeah.
but they both dressed nice. They both
Yeah, they
pursued
were.
women like you're supposed to. They both had manners, you know, and they both were accomplished in their profession. So
You know, you mentioned pursued women
the way you're
properly.
supposed
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
That's
What does
right.
that mean?
That means to ask them out on nice dates, to take them to nice places, to dance with them. I mean, they were both
They
dancers.
respected and liked women.
Uh huh.
I think that's the difference. They respected us and valued us.
Well, what's interesting is you had an equal relationship. Marriages that have cooperation and closeness seem to have equality between the spouses. Not one of them is the boss.
This-
They may take turns.
This was taken by People magazine, that picture.
Oh wow, People magazine.
That was in People magazine.
So that was when you pinned when he got his commission, huh? You know, you're talking about the gangs. I mean, there are some gangs when they were on the street, but also those same gangs in prison were forced to be reckoned with. I mean, they're very dangerous.
No, I know.
I mean-
he was in danger all the time. I mean, he really was. Even when he came home.
So, how did he get you to? How did he get you to follow his suggestions when he knew that you needed to?
He was pretty persuasive and he was calming. And I once said that to somebody, he's very calming to me. He said, you make me sound like I'm boring. But he was never boring. He was never boring.
There's a difference
Yeah.
between being calm and bored. Yeah.
Well, he was a person that had different tempos. He had a way of being soft or louder. He could change regard. Oh wow!
Yeah, little kids would, one time a little kid came out of the restroom at a restaurant and said to his father, he's the man. I mean, they'd know he was a policeman. Or one time we were in a lounge and a woman said, don't talk to him, he's a detective. And she didn't know him from Adam. I was
Wow.
like,
Well, you know, it's interesting. A lot of men, I think, don't realize how we have a presence, our voice. I've seen male physicians walk into a patient's room who was in pain, and the person just felt
Calmed
more
down.
calmed down and at peace. So that we don't shortchange yourself, men, that our presence means a lot, just walking into a room. At my father's wake, my brother-in-law came from Chicago to Cleveland, and just Kenny's presence there, he didn't have to say anything. and you know this, right? That how important just the presence is.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we have to do something.
Or say something.
Right. And in fact, maybe the less said, sometimes the better.
Sometimes just a hug or just knowing that someone's there with you.
What's interesting, oh, wow. You know, some woman gave me advice at work. She said, when I was getting married to Marilyn, she said, always treat your wife like a bride. She
nice.
was a Polish woman who had been married for years, and she said, always treat your wife as a bride. And I remembered that. There's something about that. And what I think is so amazing is how the love and intimacy that the couples share in married love, how that really radiates and goes beyond the death of a spouse. I mean, it really is amazing.
That's your treasure, I think, when they're gone.
Well, not only for
'Cause
you,
that
but I think
memory's always there.
but for other people. You know, at the funeral, the people, you could feel a presence in the room of admiration. And sometimes I think, wouldn't it be good if we knew while we're living that we had, oh, now what was this?
That was another cruise we took to South America, I think, that one.
How did you guys have time for this? I mean, you being in your own business,
I know,
being
I
on
just-
call.
Made the time.
And that's important, yeah.
Well, one thing
What's
is,
gonna
I
happen?
just hope that today, people watching this will just value our own lives and how the little things that we do really are noticed. And I think, frankly, as a man, how I am on my worst day will be how I'm remembered. So, Ralph, thank you very much for the memories, and thank you too for how you helped your men be the men that they could be. So we hope that this has been inspiring all of you.
I hope we get to see his cemetery. I think we have a few minutes to see the cemetery at Abraham Lincoln
military.
Cemetery
Yeah.
with the military cemetery that he was. Oh, here's another picture of him. That was during the Democratic Convention.
Hill Street Blues.
Yeah.
That was quite a time. And that
68.
was something, yeah, that had never happened before. And they went out, and I remember Ralph and
Gil.
Gil telling stories
They
about
worked day
going
and
out
night.
there, and you just do what you have to do. No, there was no training
That
for
was
it.
his partner, Dan Wagner, and Chuck Schaefer, I think.
I was hoping that we'd see that. Oh,
How things have changed.
wow. Talk about the blue, huh? Yeah. It's amazing that we have people that are willing to do this kind of work. And at the same time, to be able to look at this, keep up with the times, change as we have to change. By the way, one of the things I've been impressed with is just how when in a community where people cooperate with the police, how they can chase gangs away. In Rogers Park, we cooperated with the police and moved the gangs away from us.
That's the key, cooperation
Well,
in
and
a situation
yes.
like that.
to act like you belong here and this is our neighborhood and we're going to have ownership and speak up and work together.
There you are,
to be-
Jerry. Say your last words about Ralph.
I would say this, wouldn't it be good, Ralph, if we could continue to follow your example and be who we really are and do it now and not have to wait. Thank you very
Yeah, he
much
was
for listening.
unique.
We're all unique with gifts, so unwrap them and share them.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah,
Thank
unwrap
you.
them and share them.
I think at
Thank
the
you for your
funeral,
wisdom.
he was at Abraham Lincoln funeral. I guess we'll have to show that at another time.
The military,
with the military, funeral. But you said at the end for Ralph to put in a good word for the rest of us.
the good word for the rest of us, I would say peace. Peace and serenity. and to be able to know that one day we'll go back to where we came from. In the
I hope they're
meantime,
having a good time because there's been a lot of good men taken.